Let's talk about a war that's happening right now. It's all around us, but you almost never see it. I'm talking about cyber warfare. And this new kind of battle, it isn't just for governments or giant corporations. It affects you, too.
Okay, so let's just start with this. What if the next world war has no soldiers, no actual physical battlefields? I mean, think about that for a second. It kind of forces you to completely rethink what war even means today, right?
So, before we can even begin to understand this new kind of war, we've got to understand the battlefield itself. And this battlefield, well, it's everywhere and nowhere all at once. It's cyberspace.
So, what is cyberspace, really? Because it's way more than just the internet you browse on your phone. It's this massive, global web of interconnected networks. We're talking telecom, all the computer systems, everything. You can almost think of it like the digital circulatory system for our entire world, powering everything from your morning coffee order to, major military operations.
And that's where cyber warfare comes in. Now, what's really fascinating here is that there's no single one-size-fits-all definition that everyone agrees on. But at its heart, it's about using computer networks to wage war. And the targets? They aren't soldiers on a field. No, they're the foundational systems of a nation, things like communication, data, and all that critical infrastructure.
Okay, but here's the thing. Not every cyber attack is an act of war. Not even close. So to make sense of all this, let's picture it like a ladder. We're going to climb up the rungs of cyber threats, starting with the simple stuff and escalating all the way to a full-blown national security crisis. Yeah, we can basically break this down into 4 main levels. We'll start at the bottom with low-level threats, then medium, high, and all the way up to critical level. This gives us a really clear roadmap for understanding how the stakes get higher and higher. All right, let's start on the bottom rung, low-level threats. Honestly, these are the kinds of things you've probably seen in your own inbox. We're talking spam, those annoying phishing emails, common malware. They're usually not aimed at anyone specific. It's more of a scattergun approach. And the attackers? Often they're what we call script kiddies, low-scale hackers just looking to cause a little chaos or maybe steal some personal data. Okay, moving up a step, we get to medium-level threats. Now things are getting more sophisticated and a lot more targeted. Think about the ransomware that locks up a hospital's entire computer system, or those denial-of-service attacks that just completely knock a company's website offline. The people behind these are way more organized too. You've got cyber criminals running it like a business, or maybe hacktivists trying to make a political statement. Now we're getting near the top of the ladder. High-level threats are a huge leap forward in complexity. We're talking about things like advanced persistent threats, or APTs. This is where an attacker might sneak into a network and just hide for months, quietly stealing information. Or they might use something called a zero-day exploit, which is basically a secret backdoor in software that nobody even knows how to fix yet. The goal here isn't just causing trouble anymore. It's about espionage, stealing valuable trade secrets, or compromising government agencies. And the players behind this? Yeah, they're often nation-states. And that brings us to the very top rung, critical-level threats. This is it. This is full-scale cyber warfare. The targets here are a nation's most vital systems, the power grid, the financial markets, military defense networks. An attack at this level, it isn't just about stealing data anymore. This could cause widespread economic chaos or even cost human lives. It's serious stuff.
So we've seen what these attacks look like, right? The different levels. But who's actually doing this? Who are the attackers sitting behind the keyboard?
Well, it's a whole ecosystem, really. At the bottom of the food chain, you've got your lone script kiddies and maybe some malicious insiders. A disgruntled employee with a grudge. As you climb that ladder, you run into politically motivated hacktivists and organized cybercrime groups that operate just like any other business. Keep going, and you find well-funded collectives, terrorist organizations, and then at the very, very top, you have the immense resources and technical power of nation-states, operating with huge geopolitical goals. But of course, for every attacker, there's got to be a defender. So let's flip the script. On the other side of this invisible war, who's actually in charge of protecting a country's digital borders?
Well, in the US, it's not just one group. It's a whole collection of agencies, a real alphabet soup of defenders. You've got the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, the Department of Defense and its US Cyber Command, and even the National Institute of Standards and Technology. Every single one of them plays a pretty unique role in this whole defense network. And here's kind of how that responsibility gets divided up. DHS, they're focused on protecting critical infrastructure, like the power grid. The FBI, they treat cyber attacks like crimes that need to be investigated.
Meanwhile, the Department of Defense and Cybercom see them as military operations. And then you've got NIST, which sets all the technical standards and guidelines for everyone. See the problem? Each one has its own lane, its own mission, and sometimes those lanes can overlap or, even worse, leave these dangerous gaps. It can even lead to turf wars over who's really in charge when a major incident goes down.
And this whole division of labor, it brings us to maybe the single biggest challenge in this new world of warfare. The fact that there are no clear, universally accepted rules of engagement. We are basically fighting a war with an unwritten rulebook.
And this is where it gets really complicated. A single cyber attack could be seen through 3 completely different legal lenses. Is it an act of war? Well, that's governed by military law. Is it a federal crime? That falls under criminal law. Or is it an intelligence operation, governed by espionage law? And the answer to that question determines everything: who responds and how they respond.
This quote really just gets right to the heart of the problem. Multiple federal agencies operate independently, driven by function, mission, and budget constraints. There's no central authority. So in other words, when a massive cyber attack hits, there's no one single person or agency in charge of the entire national defense.
So that leaves us with this final and I think critical question. In a war where the battlefield is completely virtual, where the attackers can be totally anonymous and the rules are a confusing mess, who decides where the line is drawn? Who gets to say what's just a crime, what's espionage, and what is an actual act of war? That, right there, is the defining challenge of this new battlefield.